Hello everyone, it's Jessica and I am here with a layout for you for Peartree Cutfiles design team featuring this cute cut file called Camp Life from this month's June 2022 release. And I am pairing this cut file with the Let's Go Camping collection by Echo Park. And it's one of my favorites lately. I've been using it a lot, and I am just kind of using some bits and pieces of it. So I am just ripping a few of the papers. I'm actually doing this layout for a challenge for our June crop, and the challenge is the Rucksack challenge, which is to use 5 elements out of the list of 10, which I can list below for you. And the elements that I have chosen to use are wood, veneer, metal, patterned paper, mixed media, and distressed edges. And I've also used a bit of ephemera in mine too. That's on the list as well. So I guess I've used 6 things and a cut file. So I'm just ripping these edges and then just distressing them a bit just by rolling them back with my fingers. And I'm just layering them up to just give it some added effect. And I love this star paper that's in the collection, but I am literally down to like this little scrap of it. So I'm just using some bits and pieces of it to kind of make that layered and just make it pop a little bit. Again, I'm just gonna adhere that down and then I'm just gonna roll it back. So it just has some distressing to the edges. And then I'm gonna add another little piece of it here on that left side, right there. And then I'm gonna rip a little bit of it off just to make it blend in. So that's all there is to that, just easy distressing. That's pretty much the easiest way that you can get distressed edges. You can also use a distressing tool, but that's pretty much the easiest way. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking some inks and oxides and I am just spreading those on with my blending tool. And I'm doing a couple different colors just to give it some dimension. So I've started with chipped sapphire and then I'm using faded jeans as well and just kind of blending them together just to kind of extend that starry sky feel. And then also going to splatter some water over that too, just to break that up a little bit because these inks and oxides do react with water. So when you add water to them, they do kind of fade out and you can see like white speckles in them after you splatter them with water. It's really cool. And so here I am just doing some green at the bottom. I'm using a Peartree stencil. This stencil comes with both pieces. You get the inside piece and the outside piece, so you can do different effects with it. And I am just using that outer edge so that I can get the full trees in my layout. So I'm using distressed ink in Rustic Wilderness and then Oxide in Bundled Sage. So the Bundled Sage is the lighter one here. So I'm just giving it some layering here. I did a layout earlier this month for Peartree that also featured trees in my background paper, and it was just on the paper, but it looked really similar to this, and I wanted to kind of keep that adventure theme going because that's what we're going with this whole month. So I wanted to keep that going and make this look like that background paper, and I had this stencil, so it just worked out perfectly. And then this top piece wasn't sticking down very well, so I did reattach that, but I took it off to do the splatters anyway. So here's where I'm adding the water. And you see how it's white now, it's just kind of speckled. That's the effect. And I'm taking a stencil here. This one's by the Crafters Workshop, I believe, and I'm just using it with some white gesso because when you add some mediums like paper glaze to distress oxide, they do tend to bleed and kind of fade with the color of ink or oxide that you've used. So I used white gesso instead of doing that. It's not perfect. I should have used my thicker gesso that I had, but I couldn't find it at the time when I was filming, so I just used this one. But it's a little bit lighter of a gesso and not as thick, so it did kind of blot a little bit and smudge, but I'm okay with that because it's a starry sky. It doesn't have to be perfect. So it's totally okay. And you all know that I love distressing in my layouts anyway, so it doesn't matter. And then here I'm just backing my cut file, and this is how I manually back my cut files whenever I don't use my Cricut for it. I just take the inside of leather off of my mat and then I just basically put it over top of my pattern paper that I'm cutting out, and I just cut around it and leave kind of a little border on it, and then I adhere them down with some glue. I usually use my Creative Memories glue. Sometimes I use my Red Top fine line glue. Whatever I have in front of me is usually what I use. So here I'm doing the P, I've done the C and the M, and then the tent. I backed the tent a different way. So here's a different way that you can back it. Some people prefer to do this method. So you can put your adhesive on the back of your letter and then stick that down to your pattern paper, and then you can cut out around it. That's just another method of how to back a cut file. So sometimes I do this and sometimes I do it the other way. It just kind of depends on what I have. And this is a pretty big area and it was several pieces, so I decided to do that one that way. And then I put this little cutout on there. It has a little window in the tent, but I actually really liked it with the other piece on there. So I'm gonna actually end up going back in and adding that back on because I really like it. So I'm just adhering the rest of my letters. I'm using my Creative Memories glue right now for this. It seems to be a pretty good one for me. It stays tacky enough so that you can kind of manipulate it and move it around if you need to shift it a little bit. But it does dry pretty quick and seems to hold and last for a long time. So I don't have anything falling out or off of my scrapbook layouts. So my allergies are still kicking my butt. It's June, it's just an allergy month. We've been doing hay at the farm, so my allergies are just crazy right now. So here's that finished backed cut file. I'm just gonna take my photos and back them with some smooth white cardstock first. I figured I would do kind of like a clothesline effect and run a piece of twine or whatever it's called, I don't know, hemp twine or something. Kind of run that across my page and make it like a clothesline for this. So I'm just cutting my photos out. These are 2x2 size, so 2 inches by 2 inches. And I've cut them down and apart. I actually printed 6 of them onto a 6x6 or 4x6 photo, and then I just cut them apart. So there were 6 pictures, but I only chose to use 4 of these. And then I just cut them all apart and backed them with some smooth white, and then backed them again with some of the pattern papers from this collection. And then here you can see I'm using that other distressing tool I was talking about earlier to distress those edges. So I'm gonna lay them out kind of like a clothesline effect. So they kind of look like they're just kind of hanging there, I guess. And I'm going to use my trusty crocodile tool, which I don't use enough. I only get it out once in a while, and I really love to use it. It's one of my favorite tools, but it just doesn't really get used a whole lot. So I love pulling it out whenever I can. So here I'm just putting the string across there. I'm using my glass mat underneath for my grid lines to line this up to make sure I get them at the same place and that the clothesline is straight. And then I'm just punching a hole in both sides there. And then I'm going to attach my little eyelets to both of those holes so that they stay in there. And then I'll just run my clothesline through there and I'll tape it down on the back. So it's pretty simple. It's an easy thing to do, but it adds a super cool effect to your page. So I'm just gonna put my photos down so that they don't move around whenever I add that twine in there. And actually one of the other elements that you can use for this challenge is thread. So, I mean, in my mind, you could use baker's twine, you could use this jute twine, you could use thread, whatever. I mean, pretty much anything goes for that. So this is actually one of the other elements in the challenge. So I've just attached my clothesline. It's gonna hang down just a little bit. I've left a little bit of slack in it so that it can move around there and I can adhere it down. So then I'm just looking around for some little elements. I've pulled out my metal pieces and I'm gonna add one of these little cute metal clips. So that is gonna be my part of my metal on my layout. This is a little camera paper clip. So I'm just adding that there. And then I'm gonna use some metal brads as well. and I did cut out part of this video. So I forgot to hit the record button on that part where I attached the brads. So I just used my brad tool. It's just pointy on one end and then it has a triangle on the other end. So I've attached a couple brads and a couple little embellishments. I've used some of the wood bits from Peartree Cutfiles. So you can see the little escape tab on the top and then the little camera and in the P. And I've used those on there as well. So that's my wood veneer element. So here's the finished layout. Hope you guys can play along with the challenge in the Peartree Cutfiles Facebook group and join in to win prizes. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good day. Bye-bye.